It's showtime!
Yo, what is going on, Patriots Nation? It is your full-time scientist, fuller-time sports fan, Soor here with my longtime co-host, the father of Patriots Nation, Aiden Hauser, and we're back here for another episode of the Gillette Gazette. How's it going, Aiden?
It's going great. I'm ready to get after it, talk about some dudes and some I don't know, some guys who were buns who are going to get cut probably.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the middle. We're gonna be doing a bubble watch episode, and NCAA we're kind of like Joe Lunardi here. We're trying to see who's in, who's not. And yeah, I think this is gonna be a really interesting roster battle. We're gonna cover the offense today, and it's nice because in the past the roster battles were interesting because it was hard to find 53 NFL caliber players. But now I think it's interesting because I feel like we have more than 53 NFL caliber players on our roster, and figuring out the right 53 will be difficult. But yeah, we're going to go position by position, player by player, and just let you know our thoughts. So we'll start with the very hardest one. Drake May. I don't know. I don't know if he cuts it.
Yeah, I don't know. He's mid. No, he's definitely a lock.
Obviously, yeah. I think future of the franchise. I think no question here. Josh Dobbs.
A lock as well, I'd say. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I agree. I really like him. I think he's got experience. He's won games at the NFL level, has a lot of poise, can fit into an offense really quickly and really early. So just given that Drake May has the tendency to be a bit of a risk taker and that he's a running quarterback, it's good to have a guy that can come in and play his role, whether that's for a play or for a drive or for a game. I'm not going to say anything longer than that because I don't want to manifest anything. But for anywhere between one play and one game, it would be good to have a guy that can kind of hold down the fort. Not going to see anything spectacular from him, but we're also not going to see him screw the pooch. And this is where it gets interesting. Ben Woldridge.
You can go. Take it. Go ahead.
For me, he's on the bubble. I think he has the task of proving to the team that he provides something that we can't get from another team's practice squad. Because, I think he's a good quarterback. He's got some mobility. He's got a nice arm. But given that we have a well-established backup, and given that there are a lot of other roster battles, I'm not sure right now that he provides anything that we can't get elsewhere in the last minute. So that's going to be his job during training camp, in my opinion. He's got to show that the Patriots, that there's value in rostering three quarterbacks.
No, I agree. And it's like, for a while, like I'm trying to think of like the last time we rostered three. And was it what? Chad, I was about to say Chad Ryland. We were just talking about Chad Ryland.
I know he's
Brian Hoyer.
He's a tank commander, but I don't know how well he could throw.
Did we have, I think it was when we had, if I remember correctly, it was Brian Hoyer still with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. Wasn't he in the mix there too? And that was the last time I can really remember. But that was just because it was such a messy situation.
Like, and that felt necessary, right? You had the young player, you had the rookie that you were developing, and then you had the experienced guy who has been all over the league and for a while. When you've got the experienced guy in Josh Dobbs, you've got the second year in Drake May. Adding a rookie is really only useful if they really provide something special. Which, in the case of Joe Milton, right? Like he proved early that there are things that he can do that it's worth rostering him for. and it ended up costing us dearly. If we had just rostered 2 quarterbacks, then we would be in this mess. We would have drafted first. But, this is how it goes. And as I say this, I really don't want to roster 3 quarterbacks because who knows? Actually, we're not going to be tanking. But, if things go horrible and we're tanking, I don't want Belton Wooldridge having the game of his life to bring us down 5 picks.
We could have had Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. I do love Will Campbell, but just knowing we could have had one of those guys, it hurts.
Yeah. Or we could have had the 4th pick and other picks by trading down from the 1st pick.
Exactly.
Oh well.
But yeah, I agree. Ben Woolridge, bubble. I don't think it would surprise me either way. It's like, oh, okay, we want 3 guys now, just with Drake May and Dobbs both being a little more mobile. Potentially taking bigger hits, or if it's like, no, we're going to roster 2 like we have for most of our tenure.
See, the way I see it is the Browns are not going to roster all 5 of their quarterbacks, and I'm not sure that Ben Wooldridge would be a better choice than whoever comes 5th in that list. I think I would rather have a Dylan Gabriel or even a Shedeur Sanders over a
Kenny Pickett.
Ben Wooldridge. Yeah, or even a Kenny Pickett. I think any of those would. Well, Kenny Pickett would probably not be worth it for the money, but when we're just talking rookies, yeah, I think
it'll never happen. But a Joe Flacco Patriots jersey would be awesome,
hilarious, especially given how much hurt he has inflicted on our franchise over the years.
I know. Them early 2010s days.
People talk about Manning and those people as the main thorns in Brady's side and all of that. And it's true. But Joe Flacco was an underrated, pesky man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this it's run its course. This is not the Ben Wooldridge pod. Cool. This 90-man roster is going in order of the depth chart, and that's boring to me, so I'm going to choose randomly. Let's start with Terrell Jennings.
I don't even know who that guy really is, to be honest, so I would say he's probably a cut.
Yeah, I think they're just better people. He's got some talent, but there's just better players. Not much more to say here. They put him in with the running back, so we'll talk here. Brock Lampy.
I think he's a bubble, just with I guess I just don't really know what the offense looks like. Did we even run with the fullback last year? I don't think we did.
No, but we're returning to an offense where we have run with fullbacks in the past. I think I have him on the bubble too. I think the question is if you're going to revert back to a fullback, he has to be good enough to prove that it's worth incorporating that into the offense. What can he show us? How is his blocking? How is his catching ability? How's his running ability? How adaptable is he? And according to his college tape, all pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
If I was making the decision now, I'd have him in barely. But this is what training camp or preseason are for. We'll get to try and see what the Patriots offense looks like with a fullback. Drake May, I don't think has probably ever worked with a fullback before because definitely weren't employing that in North Carolina and didn't employ it last year. So, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Travion Williams.
I don't think he makes it either.
No, I don't think so either. And to be honest, I don't really know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Prove us wrong, Travion.
Prove us wrong, dude.
If you want to, come on the pod and make your case, let us know.
Give us reasons to buy your jersey.
If you come on the pod, we'll buy your jersey.
There we go. I definitely will.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people are rocking a Travion Williams jersey right now.
I think it would be hilarious if we both next year rock jerseys from someone on the periphery of our practice squad.
I know.
But speaking of players whose jerseys I might actually consider getting, Len Larison.
Is he on your lock?
No, he's on my bubble.
Okay.
I think there's a legitimate battle between him and Antonio Gibson. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's on the bubble too of just like, I'd say it's like 60-40. I think he just adds a lot of versatility with just his receiving skills. Like a lot of his highlights are of him just making unreal catches. Like he's just that. Is it dumb to say Rex Burkhead because he's also rocking 34? Like,
yeah, it's not a bad comparison. And he's got really good speed. I feel like he's strong in space. He's just a dynamic player. He can do everything. He's also like lots of broken tackles in his tape. He's pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
And just given the price difference between him and Antonio Gibson, I would not be surprised, and the age difference and all that, I would not be surprised if the Patriots choose to go with the younger guy. And which brings us to our next one, Antonio Gibson.
Mm-hmm. I think, I would say he's, I don't know. I want to say lock, but I'm not sure. I thought lock beforehand, and then after you were just kind of talking there, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. Like, I think any team in the NFL would feel really good about having Antonio Gibson as their number 3 running back. So it's like he definitely provides like incredible depth, but it's also, is it worth paying him what we're going to be paying him to be our clear number 3 guy who's going to only be really a change of pace breather back?
Yeah. Anyway, he did some good things last season, but there was nothing he did that was so impressive that I can't see any scenario in which they cut him. I think more likely, though, if we are leaning towards Len Larison, I think Antonio Gibson is good enough that I think he could be useful to a team, and I think I would rather try to trade him than release him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think this next part is going to be pretty straightforward, but Travion Henderson.
Lock. I mean, he still hasn't technically signed with us, but I mean, he should.
Yeah, if he signs, lock.
If second round pick, he's going nowhere. There's no way we're cutting him. Yeah, there's just not much to be said about that.
Great player. Looking forward to seeing what he does in the offense. And then Mondre, he's staying.
Yeah.
Still our guy, I think. Still our franchise back for now. I think the same way that working in with Damian Harris helped him, I think working in with Travion Henderson will help, having a legitimate number 2 back rather than someone like Antonio Gibson who's more situational. I think those two will work in tandem. The Patriots have always enjoyed the running back by committee approach, and I think they have the tools to do that with Stevenson, Henderson, and then one of Gibson or Larison.
Mm-hmm.
Throw a little Brock Lampy in there.
A little Lampy, little Larison.
I like
it. A little Efton Chisholm.
Honestly, Efton Chisholm playing a little bit of gadget running back could be an interesting way for him to find his way on the roster. And while we're on the topic of Efton Chisholm, let's transition to wide receiver. And let's start with him.
I want to hear your takes. I want to see if he's made it to your locked list yet.
He's a high bubble for me. I think I don't think any undrafted player can just become a lock before training camp. I think if he plays like I think he's going to play in training camp, he's a lock. But we don't know. I need the certainty of him playing well with the pads on and him playing well against other teams and things like that to be completely sure. But I just think he brings so much to this offense. I think he is dynamic. He throws so many different looks.
He's just an unreal route runner too.
Yeah. I think him and Drake are going to have no problems establishing chemistry. How about Demir Blank-MC? What do we think?
I don't know. He's been a favorite of mine for a while. No, I have.
Yeah,
no
you have a Demir Blank-MC jersey.
Yeah. That would be so funny. Can you imagine just going to games and you're like, "Yeah, I got my Brian Timms jersey on."
There you go. That would be a cool jersey to have.
Yeah.
Honestly. Maybe I'll have to get a Geno Grissom jersey. We got to honor those training camp heroes.
Yeah, I gotta. Oh, who did I say last time? Not. It was one of the. Who was the tight end I said it was? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Nate Sudfeld.
Yes, Nate Sudfeld.
Yeah. I he's gonna get cut. It's
he's. I watched some of his tape. I did my homework on some of these periphery players. He's talented. He's a good player. There's just too much clutter at this position and too much experience and too much talent ahead of him. I also one of his clips was Memphis wide receiver Demir Blank-MC gets injured while celebrating TD, and I know that if Belichick was coach, that highlight would have been enough for him to not get picked by the team at all. But he's a good player. He's gonna be a good pawn in training camp, and I think I would like him on the practice squad. I think he's near the top of that cut list.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's gonna get cut regardless. Let's go Javon Baker.
Bubble.
Yeah, agreed. I think if push comes to shove and we see him not making the roster again, maybe we try to use this 4th round value to trade him, see what we can get out of that. But I think he's on the outside looking in.
I know he has a lot of attitude issues, which probably doesn't really bode well with Vrabel.
Yeah.
So I think he's clearly talented. He didn't piece anything really together last year, and again, you gotta, as fans, we look at last year and we used a 4th on him, which is like a decent pick still, but with Vrabel and the whole new coaching staff coming on, that doesn't mean anything to him. So it's just starting over. They weren't invested in him.
Yeah.
So
I think where to next? Well, yeah, let's talk about his counterpart, Jalen Polk.
I think he's on the bubble as well.
Yeah.
This is even harder to say just because of him being a 2nd round pick, but this was not good last year. But
let's find a team that likes the fact that he's a 2nd rounder, because I've had 1 year is enough for me.
Trade him to Atlanta for something so they can have the Polk and Penix matchup like they did in college.
There you go. That could be interesting, honestly.
Yeah. We'll Polk for Kyle Pitts straight up.
Sure. Easy. Identical money too.
Yep.
Yeah, he has upside there. His college tape was great. If you don't look at any of his NFL tape, he's great.
It's just one of those things where it's I want to just hope it was bad coaching, because the guy caught literally everything that went his way in college. And then there was just something else. And Mayo did not seem to be the guy that was encouraging everybody and trying to keep players I don't know. He didn't really have much good to say about Polk. And I don't know if that's just because Polk is horrible or because he just didn't know how to be an actual coach through the thick and thin with the guys.
It's a little bit of both, right? I agree. there's a reason we drafted him in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
I still think we should have drafted McConkey, but there's a reason we drafted him in the second round. And he's got a lot of potential. And I would love to see what some other teams do with that potential.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I look at a guy like Efton Chisholm, and this is recency bias, and this is unpadded practice bias, because, again, Jalen Polk had equally impressive college tape, if not more impressive. But it's hard for me to want Jalen Polk on the team over Efton Chisholm after what I saw last year. But this is where I say, like, if Efton Chisholm doesn't end up being what we thought he was once the pads come on, that there's an opportunity for Javon Baker again. Definitely, sorry, Jalen Polk again. I don't think he's. I've lumped those two disappointments together at this point. But it's, you don't often see people cutting second round wide receivers. But at the same time, I look at like a N'Keal Harry, and I think I wish we had cut him loose earlier. I look at Tyquan Thornton and said I wish we hadn't wasted so much time trying to get him to work. I wish we had used those roster spots elsewhere. And so, thinking from that perspective, if we don't see a future with those two guys, then I think we can end it early. Mm-hmm. If they show us something in training camp to show they have a future, that's a different conversation. And like I've said to Jalen Polk many times, he's more than welcome to try to prove me wrong.
Come on the podcast, prove us wrong.
Yeah. You come on the podcast and I'll switch you to Locke. Because if you come on the podcast, that means you've been listening to us and understand our criticisms with you.
Yeah.
You never know. The same way that people can get way worse from first to second year, like he could evolve. The coaching is better. This is why things are so interesting. We have no idea how these players will look in a better situation. So let's go closer to the top. Let's Kyle Williams.
Lock. Give me Kyle Williams, dude.
Weirdly enough, he's the one I'm most excited about on the entire wide receiver group.
I am too. We haven't had an elite separator like that, and not just like a deep threat guy, but like a yak guy, a guy who can catch the ball in close space and just take off with it.
Yeah.
Who does he remind you of a little bit? Do you have anybody you watch him play and you're like, oh, he reminds me of this guy?
Like on the Patriots or on the
just like I don't know, like who would like an NFL comp be like you hope?
This feels like very high praise, but I'm gonna say Tyler Lockett. Here, that explosiveness that he's not like Tyler Lockett. I always thought he's a little raw, but he's just all over the place and extremely painful for opposing defenses. Mm-hmm. And
I think it's a phenomenal. No, I hope so. If he could turn into Tyler Lockett, that'd be awesome. They're both those undersized, like speed guys, good route runners, third round picks, just because they're small. I want to say was Lockett a senior too? I wouldn't surprise me if they were both a little bit older when they were drafted. I know Williams was, but I've heard the comparisons of Lockett as well, and I think I'm on board with that.
Yeah, I know Steve Smith drew a comparison to himself, which that would be phenomenal. I have so much respect for Steve Smith. I think Lockett is a closer comparison. I think Steve Smith has a certain toughness and ability for 50-50 balls that I'm not 100% sure Kyle Williams has, although he has shown some moments of it in his tape also. So I don't think it's completely out of the question either. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like that's incredibly hard to match praise. So
yeah.
Something a little bit more realistic. Not that Tyler Lockett isn't great, because he is.
He is. Dude, if you can tell me that we got a Tyler Lockett type, like he's going to be the next Tyler Lockett, I would be ecstatic.
Yeah.
3rd round, like come on. I think a lot of his play just got shadowed by DK, but like he had a number of seasons with Russ where he was just like phenomenal.
Yeah, let's remember that. The fact that Russ had both of those guys to throw to and didn't win more Super Bowls is a travesty.
Oh no, they were shaping up to be like a dynasty for sure. It looked like, and then just didn't.
Yeah, we took care of that. We took care of that dynasty before
real quick.
No, actually, Marshawn Lynch, Pete Carroll did his part in not handing the ball off. Like, as much of a homer as I am also realistic enough to know that if they had handed off that ball, we would not have been able to stop them 4 times.
Yeah, it would have been game.
Yeah, but they didn't. So, and hey, maybe Tom Brady could have led them down the field in 30 seconds. Actually, that's not even that out of the question, is it?
Yeah.
So we would have won the game regardless. I like this version of the narrative.
Right.
How about Mac Hollins?
I think he's a lock too. I don't think there's much. I don't know what world it would be if he were to get cut. Like he was a good receiver last year for Buffalo. I think he caught like 30 balls for like 400 or 500 yards. He would definitely bring like a veteran presence to our receivers group. Like he's not anything spectacular, but
5 touchdowns too.
Yeah, we just need a guy who's been in the league, who's smart, and he's a really good blocker too.
Yeah, and now he finally gets to play with a real quarterback.
I know. He looks at Josh Allen's old, dude. He gets a young Josh Allen.
Yeah. It is nice to see the amount of respect Josh Allen has for Drake May. It increases my confidence. The fact that even the best of the best are recognizing what he's got. And he's just a good player. He's plenty experienced. He's done his rotations in the NFL, and he's had experience as a lead receiver type with the Raiders, but also had experiences kind of taking a back seat. So I think he's capable of playing whatever role we give him. I think most underrated acquisition of the entire offseason, I would say. People in the sauce of Stephon Diggs, I think people kind of forgot that we also got this guy. But I'm excited. I think he's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he'll be anything spectacular, but compared to what we've had in the past, I think he will be spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. How about John Giles?
Get out of here. No, you.
Lock,
You're out.
lock for sure. Absolute lock.
A lock to be cut.
Hopefully a guy that can make some noise in the preseason. I see some of these talented practice squad level guys as people that can push the guys on the fringe of the roster picture to work a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, no, I don't think there's anything he can do to make the roster at week 1. How about Demario Douglas?
Lock.
Yeah. One of the best draft picks in recent memory. Phenomenal player with his athleticism, his hands, reliability. I just hopefully he can stay healthy. That's really been the only knock on him in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of your fantasy team, how about Kayshon Boutte?
I hope he's a lock, but I would say he's probably more so just on the bubble, which is wild. Like our leading receiver, but dang, I don't know. I love him so much. Like I think he's actually a good player. I was always hopeful for him ever since we drafted him, just because I knew what he did his freshman year at LSU, like the talent he really does have. But I think he is
I also see him on the bubble, which seems like a crazy thing to say just because of how well he played last season. He had 43 catches for almost 600 yards. You don't think that kind of guy is on the bubble. But there's just nothing spectacular about him. So I feel like if people can impress below him, he could see himself on the outside looking in. But just given the chemistry he had with Drake May, I would not put in Jalen Polk or Javon Baker over him, no matter how well they played in training camp. I just think at some point you have to reward what he did last season, reward the fact that he helped keep us in games, reward the fact that he helped Drake May get an easy start to the season. And again, I've said this a couple times, but I would like to believe that part of the equation will be gauging how comfortable Drake May is with these weapons. And I think Kayshon Boutte passes that test too easily. He's on the lock side of the bubble for sure for me.
Yeah, I think I would lean more so there too. But just with so much uncertainty, that's the only reason why I say he's on the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, since last season we did acquire two really good receivers from free agency and one really good one in the draft. So it brings in the possibility of people not making it. How about Jeremiah Webb?
He actually had some moments last year, didn't he?
Did he?
I don't know. I thought I've heard his name a couple times before, but I'd probably still say that he's a goner.
Yeah, this is just too deep. There's just too much ahead of him. He's also a rookie, so no, he did not have any moments last season. But as much as I'd like to see an underdog from South Alabama do some crazy things, and he's a good player. Again, like Giles, Blankensee, Jeremiah Webb, good players, all of them. It's just not enough. We are, knock on wood, not a poverty franchise this year. Maybe there are teams that could benefit from having one of these guys. I just don't think we're one of them. But hey, happy training camp to you and prove us wrong. Come on the pod. I promise. Anybody who comes on the pod will be moved to our lock list automatically.
Come on the pod, Drake.
Yeah, I'm sure he needs it.
Yeah.
How about Kendrick Bourne?
Bubble for me. I know he's probably more of a lock for you. I don't know. The last year or two has just kind of been shaky for him, but I guess it's been really shaky for every receiver we have.
No, it's true. I mean, the last time I saw him really play consistently well was 2021. But what was also true in 2021 was that we had Josh McDaniels, and I really don't think he was handled well by any of the other offensive coordinators. I really like he even said when McDaniels first came on that, I'm really excited to work with Josh. I feel like we had a really good synergy, and it's true, they did. And let's not forget that Kendrick Bourne has also had a nice career in San Francisco. He's proven himself at the NFL level, both here and elsewhere. For me, he's a lock. I think he's too versatile, too capable, and I think he's going to play with an edge because a lot of people have him on the bubble. I don't think it's absolutely inconceivable. If he has a terrible training camp, if he has attitude problems, doesn't show up, there are too many hungry people behind him for him to completely be locked. But I don't know. And I feel like I'm a Kendrick Bourne fan. I like what he can do. I have him in. And at the very least, I think with his pedigree and his stats and the things he's done in the past, you're not going to release him. You should not release him. You got to try to trade him if you're not going to roster him, because I think there are teams that would be willing to give up like a 6th or a 7th at the very least for him.
Or first.
We get to the hardest one of all, Stephon Diggs.
Lock.
Of course. We finally have a number 1 receiver. You can take whatever pixie sticks you want in bags. Take whatever pink substance you want, whether it's bubble bath powder.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm just trying to think of innocuous.
Fun Dip.
Fun Dip was good times.
Fun Dip was awesome.
Yeah, what are your bath bomb, your candy, whatever it is, you can go on all the boats you want if you're going to catch touchdowns on Sundays.
Yeah.
Just don't take a video next time.
Yeah, don't be dumb about it.
But it's a deep group of receivers that I'm excited for. If we're talking about potentially cutting Kayshon Boutte, Kendrick Bourne, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, if those guys are on our bubble, that's a good group.
Mm-hmm.
There's some real promise. Stephon Diggs is a clear number 1, but then it's a murky picture at number 2. It could be Douglas, it could be Kyle, it could be Kendrick Bourne if he gets back to where he was in 2021. Or Afton Chisholm could overtake all of these guys
and just be the best receiver in the league.
Maybe you could have maybe he's the next Megatron. A tiny Megatron, sure, but
Minitron.
There we go. That could work. Minitron.
Actually, wasn't that Edelman's nickname?
Huh. I don't know.
Let me look. I think it was.
Yeah, Minitron. There's some good ones here. The Energizer Bunny, Slotty Pippin.
Slotty Pippin.
The Slotty Pippin is my favorite.
The squirrel.
Yeah, the squirrel's pretty accurate. Yeah, what is our nickname for Efton Chisholm? Because we already me and Pat, your predecessor, already gave Ant-Man to JJ Taylor. Although he's no longer on the roster, so we could give it to Chisholm.
Let me think. Let's think of a nickname. His name's too unique for us to not be able to figure out something with it. There's a lot to work with there, I feel like.
Yeah. All right. By the next pod, we will have a nickname for Efton Chisholm. Yeah. That is our homework. Actually, but by the pod, we'll have a nickname for. I want to come up with one for Larison as well, and we'll come up with as many nicknames as possible for the offense. We'll be thinking.
Dude, Land Larison's got to be Land Party.
Ooh, that's true. That's true.
I guess.
Or isn't LAN some abbreviation for an internet connection or something? So LAN connection or something like that. I don't know.
I think
we'll think about it.
I think it's the local area network.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll catch everything in his local area,
That's right.
There you go. He's got that network with his quarterback.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, they don't even need a wireless connection. They're connected by that Ethernet cable.
Okay.
Yeah, this is why we're gonna leave this for homework. So let's talk tight end. Obviously, we'll start at the top of the list. G. Scott Jr.
G. Scott. I was like, where is this guy? Did you just make this up? No, I don't. This guy.
Oh, he's a real player.
He's probably 6th on our depth chart.
Gee whiz.
No, G. Scott.
No, he's not gonna make it. I think I'm unsure if we're even going to roster 3 tight ends. So I don't think we're going to go down to 6 on our depth chart. CJ Dupree.
No.
I mean, he good player at Alabama. Solid.
Fine.
But I think this is where it gets interesting. Jack Westover.
Maybe. I still think no. Like,
I've got him on the bubble.
Really?
I legitimately think he's a better player than Jaheim Bell. And so I think he's got 2 jobs. One, prove that he's better than Jaheim Bell, and prove that there's a point in us having a third tight end. I put him on the outside looking in of the bubble because I know that Brock Lampy also has the ability to play tight end a little bit. So I'd rather have a tight end that we can also use, like a third tight end that we could use as a fullback. But I would put him in over Jaheim Bell right now, just based on his tape, based on his productivity at Washington. And leaving us to Jaheim Bell.
Bubble,
yeah.
He's got familiarity with the offense, I guess, but
yeah, didn't do much with it, but
yeah.
Although, I mean, does he really have familiarity with the offense? It's a new offense.
That's true. Maybe with Drake May.
I think that's a nice. Yeah, he does have familiarity. He has one catch, right? Jaheim, I want to say 1 catch or 2 catches. I can't remember. But 2 catches. That's 2 more than Jack Westover had last year. So it's dicey. No, he just, like, he might make the roster. He doesn't excite me that much. And then I think the rest of the picture is pretty easy. Austin Hooper,
Lock,
and Hunter Henry.
Lock.
Excited about those 2. It's a good duo. I don't know. Is there some rule that tight ends have to have a number in the 80s?
I don't know.
Because all 5 of them have numbers in the 80s.
Well, no, because Kyle Pitts is 8. Yeah.
So there has to be an 8 somewhere.
Yeah.
Because G. Scott Jr. is 80, CJ Dupree is 82, Westover is 87, Jaheim Bell is 88, Austin Hooper is 81, Hunter Henry is 85.
What was Jonnu in Miami? Wasn't he a single digit? He was 9.
That's true. He was 81 for us, though.
I think he's 81 in Pittsburgh also.
Yeah. How about that trade, by the way?
Yeah, that's weird.
Ramsey and Smith to the Steelers and Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Dolphins. Although I do not like the idea of us throwing against Minkah Fitzpatrick. That terrifies me. Not that I like the idea of throwing against Jalen Ramsey either, but
yeah, well, that's weird. Like, I didn't realize Minkah was a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to, for those 2 guys, they'd have to give something good.
They're like, Miami's like, we're sorry. Can we get Minkah back?
Yeah.
Because they originally drafted him, I think, and traded him to Pittsburgh.
Right.
Crazy.
I do not want to. I do not want to be going up against that guy twice. So I'm not looking forward to that.
No.
But going up against Jalen Ramsey is not fun either. So pick our poison, I guess. Drake May's going to cook both of those guys anyway.
Yeah, he's gonna truck over him. Just his rushing prowess just alone he's gonna run them over.
It's not like Minka Fitzpatrick can keep up with Efton Chisholm anyway.
No. No.
But here's where we get really interesting. We're gonna get into the offensive tackle picture. I'm just gonna go in order.
Are we gonna have much to talk about here?
Will Campbell, I think.
Lock.
Super excited about him. Morgan Moses.
Lock.
But honestly, the interesting part of this is that I don't know if there are any locks in the rest of this group.
I think all of them. This is gonna be wild, but I think with just how messy it is, all of those guys are bubbles.
They can all make the roster. Yeah,
honestly, like all of them can make the roster, or any one of them can get cut, and it would be like, yeah, that makes sense.
I think Vidarian Lowe's had enough experience on the team that I think he's on the upper end of things.
And I think Caden Wallace is too.
Same. But I also think Yasser Durant, he gets a return to the team. I watched some more of his UFL tape. And I mean, again, got to be careful by how much you go off UFL tape, but he seems to have improved a lot from his time with the Patriots in the past. Mm-hmm. He's also had experience as a Patriot in the past, and he can make things interesting. He was on the all UFL team this past year, and we've had players. There have been players in the past from the UFL that have succeeded. Jeremiah Farms is a UFL guy. I said that like there was going to be a list, but
Kurt Warner, I think. I don't know.
What? He was in the
another UFL guy, but no, I think he was arena football. I was just trying to think of like notable guys.
Yeah. From it's like I think the UFL just formed, but sure.
Oh.
Because it was a mix of like the two different leagues. Anyway, I don't really follow the spring football very much.
Sure.
I miss football, but not that much.
I know. Yeah, they have AFL or whatever on now, and I'm like, oh, I'll sometimes watch it, and then I turn it off again.
Yeah. I'd rather just watch Drake May highlights for the millionth time.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was these last couple of days I've been putting like John Giles highlights on the TV or like Terrell Jennings highlights. It's been interesting.
You're ready for this season when you're watching like our number 7 receivers highlights.
Yeah. Here's the nice thing about highlights. Everybody looks good in the highlights.
I know. But
I look at Demir Blankenship's highlights. I'm like, oh, he could be the best receiver in football right now. This is why every scouting tape should have a low. I think I said this last week, and I fully still agree. Every scouting tape should have a low light video to accompany a highlight video.
Mm-hmm.
Every player should have a low light video. Jalen Polks would be quite tragic. For instance,
Jalen Polk.
Yeah, and Javon Baker didn't have enough time to have a low light tape, but
no, his low light tape's him just sitting on the bench.
Yeah, I think it's 5 solid tackles that none of whom are at a starter's level. So I think they're all in the bubble. I think a lot of them are at very similar levels. Marcus Bryant is an interesting one. We don't know what to really expect from him, but 7th round pick out of Missouri, good player. I liked him. I thought he should have been picked earlier. So I think he's a dark horse to break through. And I think Yasser Durant is entering that race. I think he filled the spot that Wes Schweitzer occupied before he retired from the game. And I don't think Wes Schweitzer would have had a shot, but I think this guy does. So there's a lot to play for these five. I think two of them are going to make the roster, and I don't know which two.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll finish off the offense with the interior of the offensive line. Also, I forgot to switch, but we talked about tight end. We talked about wide receiver. Now we're on the offensive line. If y'all are real Patriots fans, you would know what position we're talking about by the players.
Right.
Stuff, so
yeah, you don't need those. You don't need.
We're really just testing y'all. Because if you think Morgan Moses is a wide receiver, then you got to listen to more episodes of the Gillette Gazette.
You got to learn more. You got to watch more and learn more.
This is your online course in Patriotsology. So catch up. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music. Whatever platform you want, you can catch up. You got to study for the test that's coming up in 2 weeks.
The test, the training camp test.
Yeah, we're going to test all of our listeners. I do think Patriots trivia would be an interesting Gillette Gazette segment that we might want to consider for the future.
Cool. Like some tricky questions to ask.
Yeah. So let's start with the interior offensive line, aka the position that gives me heart palpitations.
I really think, looking at this list, I really think we only, again, have I think we have 3 locks. I see 3.
I'm trying to see if I even see 3. Yeah. I see 3 locks and one.
Maybe
one guy
probably 4.
Yeah, four people that are probably locks.
I'd be curious to hear what yours are.
So yeah, I'll just give my locks. My locks are Garrett Bradbury, Jared Wilson, and Mike Onwenu. And then my almost lock is Cole Strange.
Okay, that's exactly what I had too. I'd like to say 4, but I hope Cole Strange can play like a first-round guard. He hasn't.
Yeah, but City So has been around for just as long and has played arguably just as well.
Yeah,
which is to say, not very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, the other guys you mentioned, like Bradbury, it's like he was just a longtime starter in Minnesota, like just the veteran presence. We paid him decent money in free agency. Like we're not going to cut him.
Yeah. Yet we have a rookie that could unseat him pretty quickly just because of, honestly, just how freakishly good he is. I am a huge fan of Jared Wilson. I think he'll be starting next year.
Which even if he did, like we've talked about it before, and then like if there's some sort of potential where Bradbury could just move to guard.
Yeah, or vice versa, right? Like if Cole Strange is not working out for us, which unfortunately is a real possibility, maybe Jared Wilson can fill that spot.
And maybe that's a dumb thing to say. Like I've never played O-line, like I don't know all the ins and outs and everything, but I don't know. Is it foolish to think that
isn't playing guard just playing center without the
snapping the ball? I'd assume so.
Right? I feel like it's not necessarily true that if you can play guard, you can play center. But I think the converse is true.
Yeah, if you can play center, you can play guard.
But if you'd like to say anything to the contrary, Jared Wilson, come on the pod.
Yes.
Yeah. Got a lot of invites. It's gonna be a full pod next week. We're gonna have half the offensive line.
We're gonna have everyone on here. The whole 53-man roster.
Here we go. We're gonna have to use that. We're gonna have to use that gallery feature on the StreamYard where you can get all the people together. We're gonna have to make it a Zoom call or something. But it's the rest. I think there's just a lot of bubbles. I would be surprised if Ben Brown doesn't make the roster.
I would too. Just with him, in our dumpster fire we had, like, I feel like he had a couple bright spots where, like, oh, this guy we just got off the practice squad, now he's our best lineman.
Yeah, dare I say he played well last year? Because
Yeah.
I felt like he played well last year for the situation he was put in.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's a bubble. I think Layden Robinson's a bubble. And I think City Sau's a bubble.
Yeah, I think Conley and Butler are probably not going to make it.
And Robinson, Tyrese Robinson.
Ah, yes, Tyrese Robinson. So irrelevant that I couldn't see him on the list. But hey, prove us wrong. Come on the pod.
Yeah, come on the pod, dude. What's wrong? I'll buy your jersey.
We have yet to have a player come on the pod that hasn't made the roster. So there we go.
It's good luck.
And don't ask any follow-up questions to that.
Right. We have definitely had a lot of players on our podcast.
Absolutely. Players of Mario Kart and Smash Brothers and fantasy football.
Yes.
But, I think it's shaping up to be a pretty good offensive roster. I would say the position group that we just covered is the one that I had the least confidence in, like I said last week. I think for all the rest of them, I think we have a good starting lineup and a decent second unit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not second unit with the tight ends. I'm still unsure if we're going to roster more than two, but I think Josh McDaniels has a lot to work with. I would argue he has more to work with than he did in 2020 and 2021. Like, this is a better group. This is a better group than what we had then. Like, Jacoby Myers was arguably our top weapon in 2021, and as good as he is, like, he was not a true number one receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the guy who was probably our second best receiver in 2021 on our bubble in Kendrick Bourne. And we have some really good third years. We have a couple second years that I don't anticipate making the roster, but they're there. And there's a lot of exciting stuff.
Very exciting stuff. I'm just waiting for the season to start.
I know. I'm honestly I'm excited. I'm also excited for training camp. I want to see. We've outlined some really interesting battles. I think wide receiver and offensive line are going to be fascinating to watch, to see who comes out on top there. And then I'm also interested in Len Larson. The rest I think are pretty cut and dry. But I think the wide receiver battle is going to be fascinating. We're going to see very quickly who Drake May jives with and who he doesn't. And I mean, I think Drake May's adaptable enough that we'll see good plays from him to anybody, but it's those later training camp practices, the joint practices in preseason are when we're going to actually start getting answers. I cannot wait. I think we're only 2 weeks away now from training camp, 2 weeks and change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. And when's the first preseason game?
Is it the Hall of Fame games at the end of July?
Are we playing in the Hall of Fame game?
Oh, for us, no. I think that's beginning of August then.
Why did we never play in the Hall of Fame game? We are the Hall of Fame.
We are the Hall of Fame team.
The fact that when Brady and Belichick were on the team, the two most obvious Hall of Famers ever, we never played that game is crazy to me.
It doesn't
August 8th against the Commanders.
That's us. That's coming up.
That's
soon. I'm excited.
We've almost made it. We've almost had enough filler episodes. But you want to fill the time between now and that first preseason game? Stay tuned with the Gillette Gazette podcast. We will be here next week doing exactly what we did, but with the defense and the special teams. And we'll be able to see throughout the course of training camp where we're right and where we're wrong. And I'm excited to see where things go from here.
I'm stoked. I'm ready to see how we were right, how we were wrong. Hopefully the biggest right we have is Efton Chisholm making the roster.
Yeah. And probably by our episode next week, we'll have our fantasy teams in our shared league completely ironed out, so we can discuss those. But until then, we're the Gillette Gazette.